Welcome in to the Rockies Insider. I'm your host, Patrick Lyons, for yet another emergency podcast. Still a few days away from the July 31st MLB trade deadline, but the Rockies get an early deal out of the way. Third baseman Ryan McMahon, no longer a member of the Colorado Rockies. He has been traded to the New York Yankees for a pair of pitching prospects. I'll break those players down. What are the Rockies actually getting in return? What is Ryan McMahon bringing to New York in this trade? Ultimately, you've got Ryan McMahon going from purple to the postseason, from the worst team ever, quite possibly, to the best franchise in the history of this sport. A lot of people surprised, upset, thinking that the Rockies are a minor league team for some of the other larger franchises in baseball. And when you're a team on pace to lose about 120 games in other leagues around the world, you would be relegated and you would be a minor league team. You would not keep the right to be in the majors, to be in the top flight of whatever league it is that you're playing in. And so worrying about those optics, and there's plenty of optics to go around in this trade, but worrying about how you're going to be perceived, you are what your record says you are. And the Colorado Rockies are a franchise that's about to lose 100 games for the third year in a row. And depending on how bad it does get to end this season, you can probably already pencil them in for 100 losses next year, because teams that lose 115, 120 games, they just don't turn around things that quickly, even if it is just 99 losses. So I don't particularly care for that concept of, well, we're a minor league team for the other franchises. You need to just get better. And sometimes small market clubs, they get better by trading off some of their best players to then bring in cheaper, more affordable players that can produce the same amount, if not more. They've got to be a little bit wiser. They've got to be really sharp. They've got to be creative. And that's something that the Rockies certainly have not done recently. Let's go to the chat. Got a couple newcomers. Appreciate you jumping in. Make sure you're subscribed to the Rockies Insider over on YouTube so you can find out when I am going live. See plenty of video over at Coors Field when I am there, in the clubhouse, on the field for batting practice, in the dugout, pregame, postgame as well, etc. But first comment coming in from Bradley. Thanks for joining, Bradley. I don't hate the move. Seems like a decent return. He will be missed, though. Very succinct, Bradley. I think you hit the nail on the head. The move itself for this franchise that will not be getting itself into the postseason in the next 2 years with Ryan McMahon on this roster. He's got 2 more years left on this deal. I'll break down all the money, all the finances, but I want to hear from you first right now in the chat. If you're not going to be good over the next 2 years, what's the point of holding on to a player if the goal is to win a championship? If the goal is to sell jerseys and to make certain fans feel good about who they're coming out to see, like, I need to know who these players are on the team. And it's comforting to see the same guys over and over again playing for 5 to 10 years in a row on our team, and they're pretty decent players. That's nice. That's convenient. But if the goal is to win a championship, you should not hate this move. Decent return. I'll break down the prospects. One of them is already in the top 10 on MLB Pipeline's top 30 prospects for the Rockies, and he will be missed. Absolutely, Bradley. Ryan McMahon, a great dude. Let's not forget, last summer, after he wasn't traded, he was in the process of working on a deal where he was going to donate $1 million to Children's Hospital. Ryan McMahon is a good guy. He is overall a good guy. No issues. Nobody has issues with him around baseball. Always stood up. That was something I wanted to address later, but I'll say it now. He's a player that, even last year when Charlie Blackmon was the leader in the clubhouse, Ryan McMahon was the guy that if you needed a post-game quote because of a tough loss or even a really good win, Ryan McMahon would always be at his locker before a game and after a game. He stood up. And after Blackmon retired, there really was a void in that clubhouse. Who was going to be a leader? And sure, it seemed like Brenton Doyle was going to be there to step up, and Ezekiel Tovar would be there to step up, and Ryan McMahon, of course, there on the position player side of things. The everyday players, those guys can be and have to be much more leaders than pitchers. And so, okay, maybe this is going to be this three-headed triumvirate to lead, and Brent Doyle not having a good season. He's got other things going on. Ezekiel Tovar has missed more time on the IL than he has been on the field. So Ryan McMahon, by de facto, has been a leader of this clubhouse, and that is a void that they are going to have to fill for the remainder of this season and for 2026 and beyond. Lux saying, people online crying about the trade, not realizing we have Ethan Holiday and Charlie Condon coming up. The brakes a little bit, because we've got a way to go until those guys are going to make an impact on the roster. I think Ethan Holiday might be a better fit at third base than Charlie Condon, but both of those guys probably aren't going to be third base ready in the majors until no earlier than 2027. I've talked about this before on the Rockies Insider. Charlie Condon, his bat is starting to advance him. The power's coming along, even with that wrist injury he had to start his year. But he is a player like Hunter Goodman who might have to debut at a position that is ultimately different than the one in which he was drafted. So Charlie Condon might be a first baseman, corner outfielder immediately or sooner than later next year, maybe even by midseason. He'll get an invitation to big league camp next spring. You can guarantee that. But playing third base, it's a defense premium position, especially on a team like the Rockies, who pride themselves on having great defenses. They sometimes think that they have the greatest defense ever, sometimes when they don't, but they want a really strong defense. So just like with Hunter Goodman, not getting an opportunity to be an everyday catcher until 2025. He was in the majors the last 2 years, but didn't get that opportunity to catch at a major league level until this year. That could be the case with Charlie Condon. Ethan Holiday is fresh out of high school. We don't even know how much he is going to play this season. So pump the brakes a little bit on any kind of immediate impact. But if you're looking 3 years down the line, which the Rockies need to be doing a lot more now, I don't know that we would be in this predicament if 3-4 years ago, they looked down the line 3-4 years from then. So when you're looking there now, you got to feel good about both Holiday and both Condon. Timmons, hey, you are a friend of the family. Were you surprised at all the Rockies didn't have to send any money to the Yankees? Great point. I didn't think that the Rockies would have to do that because prospects, money, draft picks, these are all assets. Players, they are all assets. They all have different values. And depending on what two teams are in the conversation, what two teams are negotiating, those assets have different values. So my question is, and I'll get to it a little bit. I want to hear your questions first. But my question is, could the Rockies have brought back better prospects if they would have paid down some of the remaining $36 million due to Ryan McMahon, $4 million for the remainder of this year and $32 million over the next 2 years? Was it more important for the Rockies to have good optics where they weren't paying more money again for an all-star third baseman to go to a major baseball market? Or was it more important for them to get the best possible prospects? They got prospects. Could they have gotten more if they would have paid down some of that deal? Yes. That's how baseball works and how they operate. Jonathan saying, I am happy with the two new starting pitchers. Absolutely. One definitely looks a lot more exciting than the other, but even still, depth. You need a lot of options. You need a lot of guys. You don't know who's going to get hurt. This is a game of attrition where sometimes you stick around long enough and you make an impact. You get an opportunity. So now they have more guys that they can give that opportunity to if others need Tommy John surgery, go down, have shoulder soreness, you name it. So now they are a little bit deeper now in that farm system. Lux loves what Bradley said. Yes, you did nail it. Seth coming in. I like the fact that this opens up more space for the youth movement, but it also stinks to see a familiar face go. Absolutely. You know, on one hand, you have to be careful. If you have too many young players, you might overexpose them. You need some support. I'll talk about Ryan McMahon in a Yankees lineup that is now a little bit deeper. Even if he bats towards the bottom of the lineup at number 7 for the Yankees, the guy hitting behind him at number 8, arguably better than what the Rockies have been having hit behind Ryan McMahon this season. So he's going to have a lot more protection. And now those young players on that roster, not as much protection. So Hunter Goodman, what happens to him in his chase for 28 home runs to set a new Rockies primary catcher home run record? 28 is the record. He needs 29. Well, now you just took away a threatening bat on deck when Goodman's at the plate. Goodman may not see as many strikes now because of someone like Ryan McMahon no longer in the lineup. But you're right. Team gets a little bit younger. And while I don't think Warming Bernabel is going to be up for the game on Friday, he is expected to be added to the 40-man roster, to the active 26-man roster, and take over McMahon's spot over at third base. And if you read the Rockies Insider newsletter that I just put out a few days ago, and if you've been listening to me, you've heard me bring up the name Warming Bernabel a lot. He was in my top 30 prospects. I don't know that he's going to be a world beater, but a guy who was previously on the 40-man roster. He was designated for assignment. He had some tough times in the minors. But at only 23 years old and leading the Isotopes in batting average, this is a guy that there's still some bloom on the rose. Some of it was taken off, sure. But you can't overlook guys like a Warming Bernabel or Julio Carreras. So did I say Warming Bernabel was going to get an opportunity before the year was out? Absolutely. Philip saying, excited for the return, although I am interested to hear more experts talk about the two prospects. Those two were not on the pre-spring training Yankees top prospect list from Fangraphs or Keith Law. Sure, yeah. MLB Pipeline did have these two prospects, Griffin Herring and Josh Gross, in the top 30, but Fangraphs, Keith Law might not have had those guys exactly. They also do their rankings just a little bit, where Fangraphs has a future value that they put on guys. So they do it a little bit differently. So yeah, there isn't a total agreement. There's never a total agreement when it comes to prospects. Also keep in mind that someone like a Griffin Herring has been really good so far this year. He has broken out. There's a reason why he was the Yankees' number 8 prospect after the recent reshuffle. So Fangraphs and Keith Law, I don't think they've updated their list mid-year just yet exactly. So if they had, or if they do, we might have seen Griffin Herring at least a little bit higher up than what was the original preseason. Great point. CK 2006, how do these news pitching prospects Arsenal fare at Coors Field and pitching at altitude? Still might be another year or so until we know that answer. I will be getting to that. Also in the chat, I'm looking 3 years down the line, not immediate impact. We're breaking the record with or without McMahon. Got to be honest, I was a little bit worried that perhaps Dick Monfort would be far too concerned with losing 121 or 122 to hold the record unto themselves and not get rid of some of their best trade chips. They still might not. Ryan McMahon does not make a trade deadline. It is one player. How many more does Colorado need to deal ahead of Thursday's trade deadline? I don't have an exact number, but I would say anything less than 3 is probably a disappointment. Yes, you move the biggest chip, something that in the past they haven't really done. So, okay, that's good, but that's only coming up to the industry standard. That's not a bold trade to deal Ryan McMahon. These are trades that other franchises do all the time when they're out of it, when they're rebuilding. So for the Rockies to do what they're supposed to do, hard to throw a parade for something like that. They need to be a lot more aggressive and trade 4 to 5. It needs to be a lot similar to 2023. It really does. Felix, you're late, buddy. Good to see you in the chat. Wild the Innocent, also late. Come on, step it up, boys. Is Ezekiel Tovar now the longest tenured position player? Oh, that's a great question. He didn't debut until 2022. Man, that would be wild to think if that is true. Oh my gosh, that's pretty crazy. Goodman didn't debut until 23. Beck was last year. Tolia also debuted in 2022. So I think Ezekiel Tovar does have more service time than Tolia. He does, but Tolia made his debut before Ezekiel Tovar. So in terms of position players, yeah, you nailed that. I did not think about that aspect in terms of this trade, but I like where your head is at. That's good stuff right there. Stone Animals, welcome. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. I wish him the best with the Yankees, but I'm not going to miss that walk-up song. Come on, be nice. Yeah, he had a country song this year. In the past, he had a song by Mace, right? It was Welcome Back. So it Sounded like Rymac. Welcome back. But he had been going with country, I think, this year and last year, which is a little bit different from a guy from LA County. Justin in the chat, I am happy because of the Rockies trade. Not a fan of Ryan McMahon. I'm surprised. I mean, very likable guy. I know that some Rockies fans might feel a little disappointment about Ryan McMahon. And, it's interesting when you think about the Rockies. And, I would say that it's true of just about every team. Every team pumps up their prospects. I think the Rockies, I don't know that they do it any more than anyone else, but because the Rockies can keep things close to the vest a lot more on the major league side of things, and they've struggled, they have, in a way, communicated that their prospects are everything to them. And their prospects are the thing that is going to get them out of whatever hole they are in. And that's something that they've been doing since 2018, since 2019, when they missed the postseason and it all started to unravel after the loss of DJ LeMahieu. So they've been pumping those guys up. And I think that was also true back when McMahon first came up, when John Gray first came up. And you go, oh man, did these guys really deliver on the hype? And they did. I think they did deliver on the hype. Did they ever reach the peak of what that hype was? No. Few prospects ever do. Few prospects even reach the height of a Ryan McMahon or John Gray. So you can't knock Ryan McMahon for something like that. That being said, is there another gear? Is there another notch? Is there another tier that Ryan McMahon can take his game to? He's only 30 years old. Yes, I very much think he could do that. Edward saying, big Yankees fan, not happy. That's a bit of a surprise. I think, Nolan Arenado potentially out there. He's got a no trade clause, and I don't think he wants to go anywhere. He also has a similar contract to Ryan McMahon over the next 2 years. And Eugenio Suarez would be that guy to make the move. But how much more do you have to pay for Eugenio Suarez? Also, Eugenio Suarez is a rental. Ryan McMahon, you've got for the next 2 years. So if you are Brian Cashman and you're looking at this roster in 2026 and 2027, you've got third base already penciled in. You've got it penned in. All right, I got a Gold Glove caliber third baseman and a guy that we think can take it to the next level. We think we can probably get 30 home runs out of this guy, especially with that short porch in right field. You're telling me you don't think Ryan McMahon is going to hit 30 home runs with the Yankees next year? If he's healthy, and he always is healthy, except he is never healthy. He's always banged up, but he always plays. He's got one of the best abilities in all of baseball, and that's availability. So that's something you are getting out of a much younger Ryan McMahon than you would out of a Nolan Arenado or a rental like Eugenio Suarez. You get two more bites at the apple with Ryan McMahon on the Yankees roster than you do with Eugenio Suarez, who becomes a free agent after this year. Brad, welcome back to the show. Moniak has to be next. What do you think Moniak would get? Controllable, more or less, than McMahon? Moniak, I've talked about this, I think, on Sunday, live from the ballpark. While he did sign a 1-year deal, that's just paperwork. He is controlled for 2 more years in a similar way to Ryan McMahon. He only just recently turned 27 years old, referring to Mickey Moniak. And I think he very much could be a guy that could fetch a similar return to a Ryan McMahon. Now, is that a player that Colorado is looking at as being critical to part of their rebuild? I don't know. I don't know that he even should be. When you consider that you've got Zach Veen, Yanquiel Fernandez, Bretton Doyle's still right there in center field, Jordan Beck is in left field. There's too many outfielders. You have Sterling Thompson, who needs to be added to the 40-man roster this offseason. Benny Montgomery, who has to be added. I don't think he will. And you've got Robert Kalash. So you've got far too many outfielders. And I don't know that you're going to get much, or if you're going to get anything right now for Zach Veen. And that's not a knock on Zach Veen to say that he doesn't have any value. Teams right now are trying to add for the postseason. Teams are trying to get better to win a World Series. Zach Veen is a chip that you acquire in the offseason and say, hey, we need some younger pieces and we need guys that are going to be around for the next few years. That's when someone like a Zach Veen could go out on the market. But right now, the only outfielder that the Rockies would even consider trading from their outfield would be Mickey Moniak. You're not going to trade Jordan Beck right now. And Bretton Doyle, his value is down a little bit. Could they do what they did with Nolan Jones and trade him when it seems like his stock has taken a little bit of a dip? they could do that. Are they more apt to hold on to Doyle than Moniak? I think so. But Mickey Moniak, should he be out there in trades if the right offer comes along? There really isn't anybody on this roster right now that I think you have to say, I need to hold on to this guy. Mikey, welcome, saying just my personal opinion. I think Ryan Ritter is better at third base than Warming Bernabel. Keep in mind, Ritter on that bunt, I think it was on Saturday, did bust open his middle finger, and he is out. So he's got stitches. He got sutures put in. It's going to be a while. Going forward, though, Ryan Ritter as a better option at third base? I think so. Kyle Karros, probably the best option. So we'll wait and see. So Ritter currently on the IL. Karros doing his thing in AAA. But right now, you just need somebody at third base. I didn't actually take a look at what the lineup was for Friday's game in Baltimore. I imagine Orlando Arcia is probably playing third base with the Rockies essentially down a man short because you've got McMahon kind of en route to New York. Will he even play tonight for the Yankees? That's a good question. I haven't looked either at the Yankees lineup. So for the Rockies, they do have Orlando Arcia over at third base, Tyro Estrada back at second base. That's why Adael Amador went down. And Amador, since he can't play third base, you call up and give an opportunity to someone like a Warming Bernabel. So still a lot to shake out with the future of this club. And they're just giving more opportunities to these young guys. And I think that makes a lot of sense in the wake of that deal. For the Yankees at third base tonight, it's Oswaldo Peraza. Does Ryan McMahon get there in time? Well, considering that this game is for the Yankees is being played in New York and the Rockies were in Baltimore. And if you're behind the scenes, you know a lot more about these inner workings of deals before they become public. So could Ryan McMahon make his Yankees debut already on Friday night? He could. Will we see him in the dugout? Possibly. A lot of that could be tied up with the physicals that go down before it becomes official. Jonathan saying, do you think Kyle Karros will get a call up soon? Do we cut Arcia? I think Arcia is a trade candidate. He's a free agent after this year, so he is somebody that could get moved. The thing with Kyle Karros is he's going to have to really earn his spot on the 40-man because there's logistical pieces. I talked about this a few days ago. He doesn't need to be added to the 40-man roster. So once you call him up, he's up. He's on the 40-man roster. You now no longer have that spot to be flexible with, to call up a Bernabel, and then maybe designate him for assignment if you need to, and then promote an Aaron Schunk, and then designate him for assignment if you need to, and then call up a Julio Carreras. You're not going to do that with Kyle Karros. You can't afford to lose him. So he gets penned in. When he is on the 40-man and he's on the active roster, he's there. He is there. So you don't have that flexibility. They're going to wait a little while longer to possibly give that debut to a Kyle Karros. Not sure that it is going to happen. Karros is going to have to earn that spot in September if it does come to fruition. Carl saying, do you think McMahon will make a difference for the Yankees, or is this a big nothing burger? Ryan McMahon is definitely going to make a big difference for the Yankees. The Yankees have been looking for a third baseman for a few years. It feels like since Josh Donaldson, even they tried to make that work. It didn't. Third base has been somewhat of a void. They had Jazz Chisholm Jr. playing there and just couldn't play the hot corner. They even, cut bait with DJ LeMahieu. He was playing a little bit of third base in the last few years and it didn't work out. And now what they are getting, they're fortifying the spot at third base, fortifying the hot corner with a really great defender in Ryan McMahon, who's been a finalist for the Gold Glove Award in the National League at third base the last 4 years. That is what the Yankees are getting. They're also getting a player that shows up. Ryan McMahon posts. He is a guy that does not hit the IL. He's able to play through injuries. He's able to keep himself healthy. That is a big piece as well. He is able to have that best ability of availability. He's got 20 home runs every full season dating back to 2019. So sure, the pandemic season, I don't think anybody hit 20 home runs, but 2019, 24 home runs. In 2021, 23 homers, then 20, then 23, then 20. He's got 16 right now, and he's going to a ballpark with a short right field porch that made DJ LeMahieu, who was a right-handed hitter, that much better. DJ LeMahieu went from a guy who won a batting title and who the Rockies and Dick Monfort simply did not want to pay, despite the value to the clubhouse and to the roster that everybody on that team knew how good he was. The Rockies did not want to pay that deal. And so he went to New York and he immediately was a second and third place in the MVP voting in the American League. Is Ryan McMahon going to do that? I'm going to pump my own brakes. But could he have that kind of an impact? Absolutely. I sort of compared Ryan McMahon to somewhere in between DJ LeMahieu, where second, third, and AL MVP voting. Nobody saw that coming. I still can't say that I see McMahon doing that, but he can go from that kind of an impact player all the way to what Scott Brocious was for the Yankees in 1998, where he was a first-time All-Star coming over from the Oakland Athletics, and then he's the World Series MVP that year. So Ryan McMahon going from the basement to the penthouse. The Yankees have some work to do. They're not first place in the AL East, but they got the top wild card spot, and McMahon is going to have an impact on this roster. Seth adding, yes, getting away from Ryan McMahon, but it's important to note there are more trades out there for the Rockies. Victor Vodnik, Seth Halverson, those guys have several more years of club control, but they are relief pitchers. They can be volatile. At least one of those guys, odds are you have take two relief pitchers with 4 or 5 more years of team control. You take any two, one of them's probably going to end up meeting Tommy John, and you essentially lost 2 years. So right now they have a lot of value because they've been effective as big leaguers and they're not getting a lot of money. They're getting the league minimum. Vodnik will get into arbitration first, but still they are giving a lot of surplus value. And so as good as they've been, are they even going to be around for the next Rockies contender? I think you can say that they're probably not. They're probably not. Hoover's saying, is Jake Bird next? He very well could be. He is another guy that has several more years of team control. Now, over the last month, he hasn't been as good as when he started the season, and people really started to take notice. It's one of the reasons why you have to be aggressive on the trade front, because things can happen like that. Jake Bird is still the pitcher that he was the first 2.5 months of the season. He's still that guy. Teams still know that, but they're going to hold that against the Rockies in these trade negotiations. They're going to hold that against them to try to offer up less. And so the Rockies got to figure out, do we want to hold on to this piece for another year? What happens if he needs Tommy John surgery? What happens if he's not as good next year? Do you take what you can get now when somebody is actually offering you something for it? If the Rockies had done that more in their past, they would be in a much better place overall as a franchise. So I would say yes. The offers right now for Jake Bird are going to be, honestly, I think that the offers are going to be just about what they are now as they were a month ago. Because a month ago, there were teams saying, hey, there might be better players that are going to be available to us going forward. So we'll just wait. We don't need to get Jake Bird right now because we might have something better coming up in a month from now. So are you going to take what you can get for someone like a Jake Bird? To a degree, yeah, because I think the offers will be strong. I think they absolutely will be. In the chat, no, please don't trade Zach Veen. That's not happening at the trade deadline. The offseason, maybe. We will see. Timmons in the chat, could the Rockies look to get Tyler Freeman more looks at third base? Possibly. Arm strength, is there some concern there? Maybe. But that is a creative solution to possibly put him there as a guy who is not a traditional corner outfielder, right? Is just a guy that doesn't hit for a ton of power. Not really a traditional third baseman either, but could you look to fit him there to create some more room in the outfield? Yeah, absolutely. I think as a guy who you want to keep his bat in the lineup, you might be concerned that bouncing him around to various positions each and every day where he's coming to the ballpark, he doesn't know where he's going to play. Could that have a negative impact on him offensively? It could, but you won't know until you try. That's a creative suggestion. I do like that one. Felix saying, we got a team we can somewhat root for when playoffs come. You sure about that? Are you sure you're going to be rooting for the Yankees? That's the question. So, okay, you hate the Yankees, fine. Do you hate Ryan McMahon? No. So go root for him to go win a ring. In fact, to be the first from that group in 2017 and 2018 to win a ring. DJ LeMahieu didn't win one with the Yankees, came close. Nolan Arenado hasn't really come close at all with the Cardinals. And Trevor Story hasn't been very healthy, but Boston has an opportunity this year. So now when the Yankees and Red Sox play, who's going to be at the center of that, or who at least is going to be photographed next to one another? Yeah, it's going to be Ryan McMahon and Trevor Story. When Trevor Story first got traded, I remember going to spring training and asking McMahon, I was like, did Story dump any, purple gear on him? And he absolutely did. Story said, here, take all my stuff. I think they were the same shoe size. So Story definitely hooked up Rymac at the start of the 2022 season. And so now Rymac, he's got a bunch of gear, and I imagine he's going to pass that around to the rest of the clubhouse because he's that kind of a guy. He's a good guy. And I was talking with somebody earlier today that it's just crazy to think that a little more than a year ago in spring training, when he had his first child, that we're in there talking with Bud Black. He had left to go for the birth of his first child. And then he came back in, popped in, said, hey, Skip, I'm back. And Buddy said, hey, Ryan, hold on. This is a little something from me and my family, a little gift bag that, congratulating Ryan on the birth of his first child. And it was just, again, just the human side of the game. And you think, well, he's the manager. Why would he give a gift to his player? Because that's his player. That's the kind of guy Bud Black is. They are all his sons. So he looks after them. He cares for them. And Ryan McMahon, been around forever. Let's not forget, he's been in this organization since 2013, when he was drafted in the second round at a modern day high school in California. 2013. And now you've got Ezequiel Tovar as the longest tenured big leaguer, or with the most service time for the Rockies going forward. Wild. In the chat, any surprise DJ hasn't hooked up with another club as of yet? Not exactly. When that first went down, one of the things I said was, because he's banged up, he's going to get himself a little bit healthier and then spread the word. Okay, now I'm ready to come back. It was the same thing with Elias Diaz. For anyone that was saying, oh, see, nobody picked him up. He's hurt. He's banged up. Give him some time to rest and relax. And then when he's ready to go again, someone will pick him up. And that's what happened with the Padres last year. Ended up returning with them at the beginning of this year. So the same, I think, is going to be true for DJ LeMahieu, and just getting a little bit healthier before somebody picks him up. And in fact, we might even get word about that fairly soon, because I think you have to be a part of a team's organization before August 1st to be eligible for the postseason. So maybe he goes to another postseason club. We'll kind of wait and see what happens. In the chat, Yankees are my second favorite team, so I'm happy about that. Ryan McMahon is the best third baseman to not win a Gold Glove. Agree, a strong agree. Do not trade Seth. Relief pitcher. It's the guy that's going to get you the final 3 outs of the game, which you have to be winning in order to do that. Jonathan saying, do you think Veen will get another shot this season? That's a good question. I think so. I think he will get another opportunity. How much of a look exactly will it be? Sort of remains to be seen because of the glut of outfielders that they currently have. But I think he'll get another opportunity. Sorry for a lot of people scared that I put that out into the ether about a possible Zach Veen trade. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Do not worry about that. Also in the chat, do you think we will trade Tolia or Freeland? Tolia much more so than Freeland. The Rockies do care about optics. They do care about the face of their franchise, and Kyle Freeland being that homegrown guy from Denver. I don't think you see a day in which they trade Freeland unless Freeland himself wants to be traded. I don't know that he's ever going to say that. I don't know that he is ever going to do something like that because of the ramifications, because of how, people treated Nolan Arenado at first. And now we realize that Nolan Arenado was absolutely right. And he was in a toxic situation that he realized he needed to get out of. And he was laying the groundwork for his buddies behind him to get out of the toxic situation. Say, you don't have to stick around for this. Trev, you don't have to re-sign here in Colorado. John, you don't have to re-sign here. So he got out of Dodge, and we are where we're at right now. So Tolia, you'd be selling low on, but maybe someone's going to be interested. The only thing is Michael Tolia a bat that can help a postseason contender? I don't think so. Is he a guy that can help a rebuilding club? Absolutely. So that's part of that creativity that we haven't seen from the Rockies. Are the Rockies only focusing on, are they only capable of focusing on players that are going to be impending free agents? Are they capable of looking outside that box and saying, Michael Toglia, maybe we're at our wits' end. He might need a change of scenery. You know what? Let's wish him luck. And we can bring in someone else's project that just hasn't been working out over there. And it's a win-win situation. Are they able to balance all of those things? That remains to be seen. I don't know if the Rockies can actually do that. So McMahon, $32 million over the next 2 years, roughly $4 million this year. Think about this. The Rockies have only $58 million in guaranteed contracts for next year. Right now, or this season, it was about 80 million. No, it was 90 million, excuse me. So could Colorado have given New York more money for Ryan McMahon and gotten back a better prospect? Absolutely. Why didn't they? Optics. I think they're having some financial issues. And 2 days after Nolan Arenado is in Denver, Colorado's going to trade another third baseman and send in cash? No. The return for the Rockies, I think, is good, especially when you consider, I think the Rockies really wanted to get rid of the contract. So what you got was the Yankees' number 8 prospect, starting pitcher, a lefty, taken in the 6th round of the 2024 draft, Griffin Herring. He was a guy that was part of the LSU Tigers bullpen back in 2023, saving games for Paul Skeens. Herring, in fact, worked 4 2/3 innings of scoreless relief to beat Wake Forest in an elimination game at the 2023 Men's College World Series. The scouting report, it's got him at a mid-80s slider, which is his best pitch. It's got a lot of horizontal and vertical action that is effective versus both righties and lefties. Doesn't overpower hitters with his fastball. Since it's low 90s, can top out at 94. And he didn't play at all last year after getting drafted, which can be very common for a lot of college arms. This year, his first year in pro ball, 1.71 ERA in 16 starts. You love that. Now, he's only topped out at high A, but he was just as good as he was earlier this year in low A. 8 starts at both levels. So we'll see if he ends up going to Spokane or if he goes immediately to AA Hartford. 102 strikeouts in 89 1/3 innings pitched. His numbers have dipped since moving up to high A, so we'll see what happens there. He goes to number 5 on the Rockies top 30 list. He is the Rockies' top left-handed starting pitching prospect now. Josh Gross, who is number 21 for the Yankees, he becomes the Rockies' number 18 prospect. He's got a little bit more action on the ball, riding action, 93, 95, tops out at 98. He seems, according to a lot of scouts, to be more of a back of the rotation starter that could end up as a multi-inning reliever. 3.84 ERA last year, 4.14 ERA in 15 starts this year. And as I said before, who is now going to be the leader of this team? We'll wait and see. For Ryan McMahon, though, this definitely elevates his profile. I'm really curious how the bleacher creatures, if you don't know about the bleacher creatures in New York at Yankee Stadium, they do a roll call for every player that's out there on the field. Every guy has their special way of acknowledging those fans. They did it earlier this season in May when the Yankees came to town, giving a shout out to all 9 guys, including the pitcher and the catcher. So it's very rhythmic. So it's probably going to be Rymac, Rymac, and McMahon will acknowledge the bleacher creatures out there. The New York media is going to be a challenge for him, not in a, it's going to be challenging for him and nobody else. It's a challenge for everyone. He's going to be fine. He handled the Denver media the right way. We're a little bit easier. We're a little bit kinder here in Denver than in New York. But McMahon, he's got his quips. I said it before. He stands up. You know, he addresses the media when the team is not playing well, when he's not playing well. So he is going to continue to be that guy. He's going to have zero media issues in New York City. Zero doubt, as he now tries to go out and win a ring. And that leaves Eugenio Suarez. His market is now even hotter than it was before. I thought that the Rockies were going to wait until Suarez moved before they dealt Ryan McMahon and said, hey, now that Suarez is gone, Ryan McMahon is the best option at third base. And I really worried that the Rockies would be able to manage that, to spin the plates that would allow them to say, we're going to trade some other guys over here, but then we're waiting closer to July 31st to deal McMahon. I wasn't sure that they'd be able to do that. And in fact, maybe they weren't going to be able to do that. So they trade him now, get him out of the way. But with that, they have that aggressiveness has now given a little bit more of an edge to the Diamondbacks, a team in their division. Again, there's a lot of moving pieces that I think the Rockies haven't really had to deal with before and haven't really considered much before. So they don't know how to play all these pieces, but they have just increased the return that the Arizona Diamondbacks are going to get for Eugenio Suarez. A couple of the transactions going into the O Series, Amador down to AAA, Tyra Estrada reinstated, so that's the 1-for-1 right there. Victor Vodnik placed on the paternity list. Nick Anderson, number 61, he just got called up from AAA, a nice veteran arm. And Sean Bouchard, unfortunately, gets designated for assignment to create room on the 40-man roster for Nick Anderson. And now I'm curious if Victor Vodnik will not be traded because of the birth of his third child. Is he going to be off the market? Because I think that was part of the rationale for the Rockies last year in not trading Ryan McMahon. They said to him, hey, do you want to be traded? And of course, McMahon didn't want to. He's a first-time All-Star. He's got a brand new child. He's about to donate $1 million to Colorado Children's Hospital. Of course, he doesn't want to get traded. And so the Rockies, running their business like a family business and not a sports business, didn't trade McMahon last year. Are they going to afford the same luxury to Victor Vodnik? That remains to be seen. At Patrick D. Lyons, MLB, X, Blue Sky, you name it. Please leave a review on the podcast side, wherever you listen to this, or go over, leave a comment on the YouTube video. Subscribe to the Rockies Insider on YouTube. I respond to every single comment, even if it's just something off the top of your mind. If you want to say something about this Ryan McMahon trade in the emergency Ethan Holiday got drafted podcast, doesn't matter. I got you with a response. Guillaume, appreciate you, brother. Appreciate everybody joining me in the chat for this emergency pod. We'll see if we get a couple more. Will it be an emergency if a reliever is traded? It's a little bit different when you talk about a guy that's been around for over a decade in this organization. Ryan McMahon, we wish you nothing but the best. You're a class act. Love dealing with him in the clubhouse. Great guy, funny guy, kind man. Hope he goes out and gets the job done. Appreciate everybody dropping by in the chat. Love the momentum that you've been giving me, but that momentum, unfortunately, can only be as good as my next show. So, of course, I'll talk to you then.